everyone, and welcome to our second Reefs Go Live episode of 2020 called Diving into the Life of the Sister Islands Rock Iguana. Well, you are joined by me, Maisie, and my wonderful co-host for today, Tanya, who is an intern at the Department of Environment, and we are going to be learning about these amazing iguanas that are only found on the Sister Islands. So that is Little Cayman and Cayman Brac. Now, I know most of you have already joined us for a Reefs Go Live episode before, but I'm just going to recap how you can interact with us for those of you that haven't joined us. You should see the video screen, and just to the right of it, there is a chat box. Please ask us questions throughout the broadcast by typing into this chat box. They can be questions about the iguanas and what we're talking about, or it can be questions about our in-class activity sheet that you should all have at work, home, or school. So please make this as interactive as possible and ask us as many questions as you can. Now, before we get started, I am just going to go over what we are going to be learning today. We're going to be learning all about the Sister Islands rock iguanas, their importance, some of the threats that they are facing, and also how we can help this amazing species have a healthy population. So now that we are ready to get started, Tanya, what exactly is a Sister Islands rock iguana? Where do they live, for example?
Maisie, that's a good question. So the Sister Island rock iguanas, they are obviously iguanas, right? So they are herbivorous reptiles. And the Sister Island rock iguanas, also called SIRI, which is short for Sister Island rock iguanas, live in the Sister Islands, which are the two small islands of the Cayman Islands, Little Cayman and Cayman Brac.
Awesome. So they are an iguana, and you just said they're herbivorous as well. But what makes them special and different from other iguanas? What are some of the characteristics that can help us identify them? Now, we are very lucky that we have been joined by the lovely Nobs, which is this male Sister Islands rock iguana down here, and the wonderful volunteer Greg, who is helping us today. Now, I just want to say to everybody at home and at school who is watching, the reason that we are handling this wild animal is that Nobs has actually recently had surgery and is under the care of the Department of Environment. He's being handled so that we can feed him and that we can give him his medication so that he can recover. So right after this, we are actually going to give him his medication. So it's very important that you don't handle wild animals. But we are lucky enough that he is here today so that we can point out some of those key characteristics. So Tanya, do you want to point out some of the key things that we're finding on the Sister Islands rock iguana?
Yes, of course. So again, thank you, Greg. Thank you, Nobs, for being here. I'm sure he really enjoys being here. So as Maisie said, this is a male Sister Island rock iguanas. There's some characteristics that are actually true for most of the iguana species, or maybe even for all of them. So one example that is true for all iguana species is their third eye. Did you know, Maisie, that iguanas have 3 eyes?
No, I had no idea that iguanas has 3 eyes. Where is this third eye?
So here on the head of the iguana, here, he doesn't like that very much. Here between the eyes on the head of the iguana, they have a little larger scale that usually appears a little bit brighter. Here, because Nobs is an old individual already, this is all a little bit crusty and you can't see it very well, but that is a photoreceptor. So the iguanas can see with their third eye, not really pictures like with a real eye, but they can sense differences in light. So they use it for navigation or to know what time of year it is, but also as an early warning system, in case a predator comes and want to get them.
So if a bird, for example, flew over the top of Nobs, he would be able to sense it above his head?
Exactly, because the bird will most likely just create a shadow over his head.
Oh,
Exactly.
that's really exciting. Now, I've also noticed some different colorations that we're finding on Nobs here.
Exactly.
So, for example, are those black feet a characteristic that he has at the front?
Yes, doesn't it look like they have little gloves on? It's really, really cute. So this is a characteristic for the genus rock iguana. All different rock iguana species have the black front feet, as you can see here with Nobs. And that is very interesting. Also, like the color, you mentioned the coloration. Look at his eyes. They appear a little bit more red than normal, right? So that is also a characteristic of the genus rock iguana. Most of the rock iguana species have the red eyes. And that is very interesting to also know. in the Cayman Islands, this is not only the sister island rock iguana that exists here, but on the big island, Grand Cayman, the third of the 3 islands, there is another rock iguana species that exists there and only lives in Grand Cayman, which is the blue iguana.
So because that's a rock iguana, that also has the dark hands as well.
And the red eyes.
Ah, that's really interesting. Yes. So we actually have our first question that has come through from Oscar, and this is generally about all iguanas that we have. How many species of iguanas do we have in the world? That's a very big question, but do you know the answer?
Oh, that is a really interesting question. Well, it is very difficult to tell that because there are subspecies of iguanas as well. But so in general, there is something around 43 different species of iguanas in the world, I think not including all the subspecies.
Cool. Thank you for that question, Oscar. That was our first question that we've had for today. And I actually have one more question, but before we get to that question, we are going to say goodbye to Nobs because he does need to go and get his medication. Thank you so much, Greg, for all of your assistance, and we hope that Nobs gets his medication nice and safely. Cool. Thanks a lot. So, Tanya, let's go on to our next question, which is from someone in Grand Cayman. What is the difference between a male and a female rock iguana? How do we tell the difference between the two?
So, when they're young, actually, you cannot really see the difference just yet because as we all go through puberty, also the iguanas have to go through puberty. And the males, they develop specific characteristics. One thing is that they just grow bigger than the female iguanas. So, so we just saw Nobs, and Nobs is a male iguana, so he was just bigger than all of the others that we have here around, or most of them. Then also, the males, they have a big body and a big head. They're just large in general, while the females, they have usually a bigger body compared to their head. It doesn't look very proportionate.
Okay. So
but also, the most important thing is that the males have big, big jowls. You saw that with Nobs, right?
Yeah, he had these huge muscles right down here.
Exactly, and those are pure muscles, really. So the reason why only the males have those is because the males are very territorial. The females are as well. While the females just chase each other off, the males would actually fight each other and bite each other actively. So this is why they need a strong bite.
Okay, so if we're seeing those big muscles on the males, then I just want to say it is also very important to definitely not feed any of these iguanas. For those of you that are viewing from the Cayman Islands, I know that we get a lot of questions about the students that come here with CCMI, and they always ask, well, can we feed the iguanas? Definitely with those males with those big muscles, that's probably not a very good idea, is it?
No, Maisie, that is definitely not a good idea. First of all, you should never feed wild animals anyways, right? And then a lot of people think that iguanas don't even have teeth. They think that iguanas just have the gum.
Yeah.
But, so this is why I brought this today. I brought a skull of an iguana. And so that shows, that was unfortunately an iguana that got run over by a car. But it is a good thing to have to explain to people how dangerous iguanas can be if we decide to feed them and make them used to people. So here we see the teeth. You see that was from a big male, just the size of Nobs. But we see that the teeth are not very big, but they are very sharp. Maisie, do you want to give me your finger very quick?
Yeah, I definitely don't want to lose my finger that way, guys. So it's very important not to try and feed any wild animals, but especially these guys, because I quite like having my fingers.
Yeah, but at the same time, again, the iguanas, they are not dangerous animals. They would not just bite for fun. They only bite when we interact with them in too much.
Cool. Okay, well, we actually have one more question before we go on to our next section, which is why the sister islands rock iguanas are so important. And we have a question that is coming all the way from India. I would just like to say it's amazing that Reefs Go Live is going all over the world. It is super cool for us. But we have a question from the SDG warriors in India, and they are asking if the sister islands rock iguana have any adaptive features that let them survive in Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, or if they've just evolved here and that's the reason why they live here.
So that is actually the main reason why we only find the sister island rock iguanas here in the Cayman Islands or in Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, is because they have evolved here. So there are other iguana species that would be able to survive here as well, But as the sister island rock iguanas, where the scientific name is Cyclura nobila caymanensis.
It's a very long name.
Yeah. But that is only a subspecies of the Cuban rock iguana. This is why the sister island rock iguanas have 3 names. And so the Cuban rock iguanas apparently came here to the Cayman Islands at some point, and then because of that very special environment, very special plants and just conditions here, they evolved this very special and specific species of iguana.
Oh, that's fascinating. So that means that the Sister Islands rock iguana is an endemic species then.
Exactly.
So it only exists in a certain very small area that for us, being Little Cayman and on Cayman Brac, so they are the only places where we can find them in the world. And this leads really well onto our next section about why the Sister Islands rock iguanas are so important to the ecosystem here. So what are some of the ways that they are helping the ecosystem here, Tanya?
So one thing is definitely, you probably all know what an ecosystem is, right?
Yep.
So everybody has their own jobs in that ecosystem that they have to fulfill. The job of the Sister Island rock iguanas is mainly seed dispersal. So they are the most important seed dispersers here on the island. Without having them here, the plants would not be able to grow as much and to thrive as much, because they would not get the help to get away from competition with other plants, like the mother plant, for example.
Okay, so we actually have a question that relates to that came into us earlier, and that's from Oscar in Anglesey in the UK. So thank you very much for joining us. And he's asking, are the Sister Islands rock iguanas keystone species then? So we spoke about keystone species in our last broadcast, guys, and they are species that are critically important for the environment. And if they are removed, then the environment is going to be changed and it is going to be different. So are the Sister Islands rock iguanas a keystone species?
I guess so. So it was, I mean, it was quite obvious. You already answered this question actually with the definition of a keystone species. So if the iguanas were not here anymore, nobody would do the job that I just described. So the plant, the flora would look so different. The plant community would look so different. And just the ecosystem wouldn't work that well anymore, because other animals need shelter and food, and
other animals need all of those plants to be dispersed around the island, and without the iguanas, that's essentially not going to happen. So we know that iguanas are really important for the ecosystem, but also they're important for the people that live on Little Cayman as well. How are they important for us?
So it is just so great to see them. I guess you probably already got the idea. Iguanas are just so cool.
They are very cool. I agree with that.
Yeah, so it is very important for ecotourism, for example. So a lot of people that come here really enjoy seeing the iguanas. Some people really come here for the iguanas. I get so many people here coming to the museum to see the iguanas, because we have here quite a nice population, or nice few individuals that live here.
Yeah.
So for ecotourism it is very important, but also the people that grew up here or live in the Cayman Islands, they just love their animals. So it is just something that is supposed to be here, and then we have to make sure that it stays that way for much longer.
Yeah, definitely. I know that I love seeing the iguanas when I am traveling around the islands. We've lived here for a few years now, both of us, and we love seeing them every single day. So they are very important to us, and for the tourists that come and visit as well. So we know that these iguanas are really amazing. However, a lot of people can't seem to find a lot of information about them online. Where can we find information about them so that more people can learn about this species?
So there is a lot of information on the Department of Environment of the Cayman Islands website. Then there's also information on the IUCN website. And I mean, to get just a broad idea, the Wikipedia works well as well. But there is a lot of information out there, reliable information. Definitely go to the DOE website or to the National Trust for the Cayman Islands website. Yes, but there is still a lot of information. It is difficult to find information sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's because they only exist on these two islands that not many people actually know about these species. So I think that's why sometimes people find it difficult to find information about them.
Yeah, there has been a lot of studies done actually in the past few years. The Department of Environment, together with other organizations and universities, They did a lot of research here, and I've been continuing with the Department of Environment on the data collection here on Little Cayman. But the studies, as they only exist here in the two islands, they haven't been studied for a very long time yet. So we don't have the long-term studies, and so yeah, this might be a reason, or is a reason, why we don't even know how old the iguanas can get.
I know.
Can you believe that?
That's crazy. There's still a lot of
can,
research that needs to be done on all of them.
We know that they can get older than 25 years, but who knows?
Who knows? Well, so we definitely need to continue our research on this amazing species. However, I know that there was actually a population study that was done on Little Cayman just last year, and I know that unfortunately the population has been reduced, which leads us very well onto our next section about the threats that the sister islands rock iguana is facing. So Tanya, do you mind telling us how the population of the sister islands has reduced? What has it reduced from, first of all? What was it when you first surveyed the population?
Well, there have been surveys in the past. The most or the one that we can compare the numbers with and among is, so there was a population survey done from the Department of Environment here in Little Cayman in 2015, and that revealed something like a population size of about 2,800 individuals of sister island rock iguanas here in Little Cayman. But there also was another population survey done in November 2019, so just a few months ago, by the Department of Environment. And that revealed a really, really big drop in the population. So we might only have something around 1,800 iguanas left, maybe even as few as 1,500 iguanas left in Little Cayman.
So that is a absolutely huge decrease in the population, especially for a species that the largest population in the world is actually on this island. So the fact that it has reduced down so much is actually a little bit scary. Now, how do you think that the population has decreased? What are some of the key threats that this species is facing?
So one of the main threats is definitely island development, which means that, well, the Cayman Islands are so great, obviously, and people want to live here, but the more people come to the islands and build houses and roads and all that stuff, the less space is for the wildlife left, right?
Yeah.
So it can be really well seen in the different population sizes in Little Cayman and Cayman Brac. Little Cayman is smaller than Cayman Brac, but Cayman Brac has many more people that live there.
Yeah.
And this is why they have much fewer iguanas left.
Because there's just more development that's going on, because people obviously need places to live and homes to live in as well.
Exactly. So, and that just reduces the space for the iguanas for habitat and nesting as well.
Yeah, because we actually find the sister islands rock iguana on Little Cayman. I know that I see them absolutely everywhere.
They are all over
because they are all over the island, and they tend to live in burrows, correct?
Yes, exactly. So they make their own houses. They actually make burrows, they dig into the ground, and this is where they go at night. This is where they sleep.
Yeah, so we really need to make sure that we're keeping the whole environment, you know, some areas at least protected for them so that they have somewhere to live. Now, I know that there is also another way which unfortunately humans are causing a decrease in the population, and that is unfortunately by roadkill. Now, what do you want to say about roadkill, Tanya? I know we had quite a lot last year.
Yes, unfortunately, that is an ongoing problem. So here in Little Cayman, it is not a big island. We have not many people here. We used to have a lot of iguanas, and this is why we have a really low speed limit here. So you can only drive 25 miles per hour, which is not very fast.
It's not very fast.
40 kilometers per hour. And that is because of the iguanas that are in the road, that are all over the island sometimes. So, but it does happen sometimes that people don't follow the speed limits, which is really, really sad that people are not aware of that, more aware of that. And also we can always, one thing that we can be really certain of is that iguanas don't behave like we expect them to.
No, exactly.
So sometimes the iguanas are just sitting in the road, and they would not run away from cars. They would not know to run away from cars, because before we came here, the iguanas didn't even know what cars are.
Yeah.
So there are no larger predators that iguanas and of a certain size had to be afraid of. and this is why they don't know that cars can be dangerous.
Yeah, so we definitely need to be careful when we're driving around the sister islands. Now, we've just got a question that has come in from CIS, who are asking if the sister islands rock iguana is endemic to Little Cayman. It is endemic to Little Cayman and to Cayman Brac, so both of these two islands, and we are not finding them on Grand Cayman. It's just those two islands that we find them on. Now, Tanya, speaking about some more threats that these species is facing, I know that there's actually a huge threat from feral animals as well. Now, we have lots of feral cats here on Little Cayman, and for those of you watching, those are cats in the environment that don't have any owners. No one is looking after them, and they are just surviving and living by themselves in the wild, and we have a lot of them here. Are they eating the iguanas then? Is that one of the key threats that we're facing here?
Yes, that the feral cats that we have here on Little Cayman are just an additional predator that the iguanas again do not know, because the feral cats or cats were not supposed to be part of this ecosystem. They have not co-evolved with the iguanas, and obviously a cat would not be able to so easily catch a big iguana like knobs that we saw earlier, but the babies are very, very vulnerable. So that is another thing that the population survey from November last year has shown, that we barely have any young iguanas, like 1, 2, or 3-year-old iguanas left in the population here in Little Cayman, because the feral cats, they just take them all out. They just hunt the baby iguanas, and so that is really bad for the population because no youngs are coming after.
Yeah, and they're not going to be able to grow and develop into adults. Now, we also have a question that kind of links into this as well, and this is from the CCC students, and they're actually asking how long can the adults get to be? So obviously, at what point do they stop being from a small baby and then they grow into a large adult?
That is very difficult to say, also because the big animals that live here, I think we are not able to see or to catch because they are all way in the interior of the island. But we know we caught one iguana that was as heavy as more than 22 pounds.
Wow.
So that was really big. And I would say, yeah, it is about it is about 6 feet or something.
Yeah.
It's when iguanas as long as they can get, including the tail. But it is interesting, iguanas grow throughout their whole lives. They never ever stop growing. Obviously, when they're younger, they grow faster, but then when they get adults, the growth rate just slows down, and you would not see the changes so much anymore.
Oh, that's really interesting, and it just goes to show that we really do need to do more studies here to figure out, for example, how large they get and also how long they live as well. So kind of going back to what we were talking about with our threats, we've spoken about how humans can be a threat via development and by roadkill, and how some animals can be a threat as well, such as the feral cats and the feral dogs. However, I know there's also one more animal that can have a really bad impact on the sister islands rock iguana, and that is the invasive green iguana. Now, for those of you watching, an invasive species is an animal that has come from a different environment into this new ecosystem and is having a negative impact by competing for resources with the animals or the plants, for example, that already live here. Now, before we go into how the green iguana actually got to the Cayman Islands, what I'd like to do first of all, Tanya, is I would like us to describe the differences between the two iguanas, the sister islands rock iguana and the green iguana. And you should all definitely listen into this because I know that this is a key part of your in-class activity sheet that you're supposed to be doing.
Yes, so I have 2 pictures here, and so one of them shows a, oh, let me do that the other way around. So, Maisie, do you mind?
I can hold one.
Okay, so here we have a sister island rock iguana, and here we have a green iguana, right? So I told you earlier, showing with knobs already, that there's some characteristics that only rock iguanas have, that the green iguanas obviously don't have, because they are not very closely related to the rock iguanas. They are from a completely different genus. So besides the red eyes and the black feet that the green iguanas don't have, but the rock iguanas have, We can also see something really, really dominant in the face of the green iguanas. Do you see that big round scale here on the cheek of the green iguana? So that is actually a characteristic that only the species green iguana has. No other iguana species has that big round scale on the cheek. So that is a really important characteristic to look at if you want to know what species it is. And so here we see that is a picture of Jerry. He lives here at the museum. He has a scar here, but you see, don't get confused with that. It is not a scale like the green iguana have, right? But what you can also see with Jerry here, he has something round here, but that is an ear. Also, iguanas have ears, and the green iguanas have an ear as well. You can see it right here. But only, again, the green iguanas have that big round scale here on the cheek, right? Another thing is what all iguanas have is a dewlap, that skin on the throat here.
Right here.
That here, that we call dewlap, and all iguanas have that. But while our rock iguanas have smooth skin here on that dewlap, the green iguanas have spines on their dewlap. So that is also a very important characteristic, and actually very easy to tell them apart with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for that, Tanya. I think that's definitely going to help with everyone's in-class activity sheets. So please do try and fill those out as much as possible. And if you have any questions, either about your in-class activity sheets, or you have any questions that you'd like to ask myself or Tanya, then please do type them in that chat box, and we will try to answer as many as we can throughout this broadcast. So now that we know the differences between the two iguanas, the green iguanas and the sister islands rock iguanas, let's talk about how this invasive species, the green iguana, which I would just like to add, I don't think looks very green in that photo.
Yes, that is a very good point. So that is sometimes very misleading.
Yeah.
So the species green iguana is also called common iguana.
Oh, okay.
So the green iguanas, the species, don't always have to be green. Sometimes they are orange, or they can also be black or brown. So don't rely on color. It is not a very reliable characteristic.
Yeah, even though it's called green iguanas, sometimes we name things very strangely. So now that we've spoken about the differences between the two species, let's talk about how the green iguana actually got to the Cayman Islands. How did that happen?
So here to the Cayman Islands, they only came by people. So we brought the green iguanas here. So some other Caribbean islands where the green iguanas exist now, where they're not supposed to exist, where they're also invasive, the green iguanas were able to get there by storms or hurricanes, or they even swim there. But here in the Cayman Islands, the only reason why they are here is because people brought them for one reason, that the people in their home range in Central and South America, where the green iguanas are native, people eat them sometimes. So that is a common food source. So people brought them here as well as a food source. But another reason, and that is, in my opinion, the main reason, is because of the pet trade.
Yeah.
So people wanted to have green iguanas as pets, and as we people are, we change our minds sometimes, or we don't know that that iguanas can grow very large, so we don't have the facilities at home anymore. So this is what happens, that people just let iguanas go in Grand Cayman, and this is what caused the problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same for lots of invasive species as well. And some of you may have seen one of our previous Reefs Go Live episodes about the invasive lionfish. And they actually think that the reason that the invasive lionfish got into the waters is also because of the pet and the aquarium trade as well. So it does just go to show that, you know, if we do have a pet, we definitely shouldn't be releasing it out into the environment, because it can sometimes have a really negative impact. Now, how are these green iguanas actually affecting the sister islands rock iguana? Are they competing with them for resources?
Yeah, for different resources. One thing that I want also to mention still, how they got here and how they got into the wild, is we had hurricanes in the past, and this is also how the green iguanas in Grand Cayman got free, that hurricanes destroyed enclosures. So it is not all our fault, but well, we brought them to the Cayman Islands, right? So, and that is already bringing some animal or plant species to an environment where they don't belong and risk that they would get free. how, no matter how,
Yeah.
is just a big risk, right? So yes, sorry for that excursion. Yeah, the green iguanas, they compete for food sources with with our rock iguanas. However, here in Little Cayman, that is not such a big problem because we don't have so many green iguanas on Little Cayman. Luckily, not as many as Grand Cayman used to have. But it is just a problem that the green iguanas reproduce so much faster than our rock iguanas. They have just so many more babies at once, and this is why there's just so many more animals out there, more green iguanas that eat all the leaves, and they climb up into the trees and eat everything. So our rock iguanas mainly live on the ground, while the green iguanas eat things from the tree already. And so that is a big problem. So here in Little Cayman, though, the main problem is that they can pass on diseases that they brought from their home range. And also we saw actually hybridization taking place. So we saw that the sister island rock iguanas can have babies with the green iguanas as well.
Wow, that's really interesting, and that actually answers a question that we got once again from the SDG warriors in India who were asking about hybridization. So it is possible for the green iguanas and for the sister islands rock iguana to actually mate, but we don't know whether or not the animal that they create can have its own babies. So that's some more of the research that the Department of Environment is actually undertaking as well. We actually know that there is not very many green iguanas actually on Little Cayman. However, I know, and I know a lot of the people watching from the Cayman Islands know, that there is actually a really large population of green iguanas on Grand Cayman. Now, there are some measures that are being undertaken to actually reduce down this population, and this leads us really well into our next section, where we're going to be talking about what you can do to try and help keep not just the sister islands rock iguana population healthy, but also the blue iguana population healthy as well. And one of those key things is actually the removal of the green iguanas. Now, I know that this should be done by trained professionals from the Department of Environment, and I just wanted you to give a little bit of clarification about this, Tanya, just to make sure that everyone is sticking in line with all the laws.
Yeah, so it is definitely not allowed for everybody to go out and catch random animals. So you saw there are some characteristics that are different between the species, but it can still be very confusing. We cannot risk that our native wildlife would get hurt. So this is why, as you said, Maisie, only certified cullers, only professionals are allowed to do something about the green iguanas in the Cayman Islands. With the authorization of the Department of Environment. Here in Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, we do have some initiatives that help reducing the number of the green iguanas on the islands. So here in Little Cayman, we have the National Trust for the Cayman Islands. They're doing very important things for the conservation of wildlife here, but also we have a part of the National Trust is Green Iguana Bigana. And just Greg, who was here earlier,
he was wearing one of the bright yellow green iguana bigana t-shirts.
Yes, exactly. So we try to find the green iguanas, but we cannot always do it all by ourselves.
Yeah.
So this is when we need help from everybody, and this is why we try to inform as many people as we can about the problem and how they can help. And so if you would ever make it to Little Cayman or to Cayman Brac and you see a green iguana, please tell us about it. Please tell us what you see. Take pictures. Pictures taking is always funny.
It is always fun.
So tell us what you see. Report it to the National Trust, to the DOE, or to Green Iguana Bigana. In Cayman Brac, they have a volunteer initiative which is called Green Go, and they also have a hotline that you can call when you see something suspicious.
Yeah, definitely. So I would just like to point out to everyone viewing, especially those from overseas who perhaps haven't heard of the green iguana cull, that the removal of any organism, whether or not it is invasive or not, needs to be done in a humane way. And all of the procedures that have been laid out by the Department of by the Department of the Environment, are recommended by the American Veterinary Association, and have been endorsed by PETA as well. So we are removing this species because they are having such a negative impact on our environment, and they are harming species such as the Sister Islands rock iguana, but it is always done in a humane way. So we've kind of gone over one way in which some people can help the Sister Islands rock iguana by reporting those green iguanas that we're finding. What are some of the other ways that people can help the population here?
So one very obvious thing is, of course, follow the speed limits, people. Please, please be aware of the iguanas in the road, that they might be sitting at the side of the roads, but then get scared when they hear the car, and then they run in front of the car. Just if you see iguana, slow down and maybe even stop your car and make sure when you look out of the window that the iguana is safe. But for people that are not personally here in the Cayman Islands, you can help as well. And this is by what we have been doing for the past
half an hour,
just talking about it, just talking about the amazing iguanas that we have here, how important they are. Inform your family and friends, and the more people just know about the importance of specific species for specific environments, the better it is, the better we can help, the more research can be done, the more questions are asked and raised. So I think that is a really, really good way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I know that for a lot of people that are viewing from overseas, you may have never even heard of the Sister Islands rock iguana. And now, luckily enough, you do. So if you are watching and you've never heard of the Sister Islands rock iguana before, I want you to try and go home and tell at least, I don't know, 3 to 5 friends or family members about this really awesome species, because the more people that know and care about species such as this that are endemic to a very small area, and just like the Sister Islands rock iguanas, are actually critically endangered and really do need our protection and our support. So the more you talk to people about it, hopefully the better outcome that we're going to have in the future. Now, Tanya, I'm afraid we're actually really close to the end of our broadcast.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, and would you like to say anything to our students before we sign off?
Thank you. One thing that I just want to make sure really is that green iguanas are not always bad. So it is about the invasiveness of species in certain environments. In the home range, the green iguanas are supposed to be there. They have to be protected as well. And so it is just about, yeah, and also with the feral cats, just be aware of what you do, how you treat your pets, and make sure they are good and taken care of and not released into the wild in whatever way.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I want to thank everybody to listen to us. I hope we could tell you something new and interesting. I'm very excited about the iguanas, as you can probably see. If you ever make it to Little Cayman, please come stop by at the Little Cayman Museum and see me and our iguanas here. And thank you, CCMI, for having me here for the broadcast.
It has been an absolute pleasure. We're so lucky to have you here. And as Tanya said, if you ever do come to Little Cayman, please do come and visit the Little Cayman Museum. Also stop by the Little Cayman National Trust, that is always helping and supporting the Sister Island rock iguanas. And of course, you can come and see us at the Central Caribbean Marine Institute as well. So this is now unfortunately the end of our broadcast. You guys have had some really, really awesome questions that have been coming in, and I know that we haven't had a chance to actually answer them all. So if you do have any further questions at all, please do type them into that chat box, and we will try and make a video within the next few days or so answering those leftover questions so that you have them before your next time in class. Now, we do have another Reefs Go Live episode, which is happening next week on March 19 at 1:45, and I'm going to be going underwater again, which is very exciting, and we are going to be doing a broadcast on wave actions and reactions on the physics and chemistry of the reef, which is going to be a super cool broadcast, although I'm really enjoying being with these iguanas right now. But we cannot wait to see you then. As I said, any more questions, please let us know. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day at school, work, or at home. Thanks a lot. We'll see you then.